Assalamu alaikum, dear students of Standard 7. Today we will read Unit 6, Lesson 8 to 11. Students, in the previous lesson, we came to know that Jishan had gone to visit his grandparents' house with his family. There, Jishan, Julie, Jahid, and Shima were enjoying a family gathering under the full moon. We also know that the family gathering went on far into the night. Their grandfather was telling the story of the selfish giant in the family gathering. Grandma refused to go to bed. She forgot her back pain. Let us also enjoy the story The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. Here and there, over the grass, stood beautiful flowers. Also, there were fruit trees around the garden. One day, the giant came back. He went to see his friend in a distant land and stayed with him for 7 years. When he arrived, he saw children playing in his garden. "What are you doing here?" cried the giant in a gruff voice. Gruff means, dear students, harsh or rough. The children ran away. Every afternoon, the children came back from school and used to go and play in the giant's garden. "My own garden is my own garden," said the giant. "Anyone can understand that, and I will allow nobody else to play in it." So he built a high wall all round the garden and put up a notice: "Trespassers will be punished." The children had now nowhere to play. There were no gardens around and the roads were busy and crowded. After school, they used to go round the high wall and talk about the beautiful garden inside. "How happy we were there," they said to each other. Then came the spring, and all over the country there were flowers and there were birds. Only in the garden of the giant it was still winter. Here no birds were singing and no flowers blossoming. There were only snow and frost and north wind in it. "I cannot understand why the spring is so late in coming," said the giant. He was sitting at the window of his big castle and looking out at his cold, dry, lifeless garden. "I hope there will be a change in the weather." But neither spring nor summer came to his garden. One morning, the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It was so sweet to his ears that he thought it must be the king's musicians passing by. But in fact, it was only a little bird singing outside his window. Then the north wind stopped and a delicious perfume came to him through the open window. "I believe the spring has come at last," said the giant. He jumped out of the bed and looked out. What did he see? He saw the most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall, the children crept in and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. In every tree there was a little child, and the trees were so delighted to have the children back again that they covered themselves with blossoms. They were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The birds were flying about and twittering delightfully. The flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. But only in one corner of the garden it was still winter. There under a tree a little boy was standing alone crying. He was so small that he could not reach up to the branches of the tree. The poor tree was still covered with snow, and the north wind was blowing over it. The giant felt sorry as he looked out. How selfish I have been, he said to himself. Now I know why the spring would not come here. So he quickly went out into the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened that they all ran away, and the garden became winter again. Only the little boy did not run, for his eyes were so full of tears that he did not see the giant coming. The giant quietly came behind him, took him gently in his hands, and put him up into the tree. And the tree at once broke into blossom, and the birds came and sang on it. The little boy stretched out his two arms, flung them round the giant's neck, and kissed him. The other children saw this. They saw that the giant was not wicked any longer, so came running back, and with them came the spring. It's your garden now, little children, said the giant. Then he took a huge axe and knocked the wall down. And the people passing by found the giant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden in the country. Students, can you understand the theme of the story? The theme of the story is that having a warm heart will make you happier. When the giant had a heart of cold, that is cold heart, it turned everything and his environment cold and depressing too. The giant was called selfish because he prohibited the children from playing in his garden and did not want anyone else to take delight in his lovely garden. He built a high wall all around it and put up a notice board in it stating that all trespassers will be prosecuted or punished. Trespassers means a person who tries to enter unlawfully or in a wrong way on others' property or land. But when spring came, the birds did not sing as there were no children. The trees too did not blossom. And winter stands for a negative and desolate environment in this story. In this environment, trees and flowers do not blossom. Winter in the garden also refers to an atmosphere of depression and laziness. Since birds did not sing, children did not play, and spring did not visit the garden, winter prolonged its stay in the garden. When the giant had a heart filled with warmness, he was happier, and so was everything around him. Upon seeing the most wonderful sight, the giant realized how selfish he had been. He realized that spring did not come to his garden as he was selfish, not to allow the children to play in his garden. He came to know about the reason why spring had not come. He felt very sorry for what he had done to the children. When he broke the wall, happiness and beauty surrounded him in terms of children and spring season. Dear students, it is a very simple story, and from the story, we understand that if we give happiness to others, we also feel happiness in our life with the smile of those persons. It is quite a touching story with a moral. Coexistence, that is, living in peace and harmony with others. And spreading love is the message of the story. We can get happiness through true love and selflessness. So, dear students, can you understand the moral of the story now? Yes, it is. Whatever we possess gives more happiness when shared with others. Students, here are some questions for you of which you will prepare the answers and write in your CW copy. Why was the giant called selfish? What happened to the garden when the spring came at last? Why did one corner of the garden still have winter? Why did the giant feel sorry? What happened when the giant put up the little boy up into the tree? Why was the giant's garden the most beautiful garden in the country? What lesson do you learn from the story? That's all for you. Thank you, dear students. Stay safe and be happy.